All right, let's talk about something that's pretty much every homeowner's worst nightmare, but something most of us don't really understand: water damage. It can happen to anyone, at any time, and trust me, knowing what to do and how incredibly fast you have to act makes all the difference in the world.
So, here's the game plan. First, we're going to look at the threat itself. Then, we'll cover what to do in those first critical hours. After that, we'll break down the three-phase professional process, get into how the costs and standards work, and wrap it all up with a defense plan for your home.
Okay, first things first. You have to understand the enemy. And when it comes to water damage, the enemy is time. It is an absolute race against the clock, especially if you live in a humid area where things like mold get a major head start.
So to really drive home just how urgent this is, let me ask you a question. How much time do you really think you have before a little water problem spirals into a full-blown disaster?
The answer is, honestly, it's shocking. You've got 24 to 48 hours. That's it. That is your entire window before a straightforward water issue starts turning into a much bigger, much smellier, and way more expensive mold problem. And the reason that 48-hour deadline is so incredibly critical? Well, it all comes down to this nasty little thing called microbial growth. The second that moisture hits organic materials, the actual stuff your house is made of, like drywall, wood, insulation, it basically becomes a 5-star resort for mold and bacteria. And the clock starts ticking fast.
And you might be thinking this is all about big floods or hurricanes, but nope. More often than not, the real culprit is something hiding right inside your home. A simple clogged AC line, a washing machine hose that finally gave out, or a tiny hidden leak under your foundation. These are the things that cause the most trouble.
Okay, so we know the danger. We know the clock is ticking. What do you actually do? What are the immediate, practical steps you need to take the second you discover water where it shouldn't be?
This is your emergency playbook. Seriously. First, if it's safe to do so, shut off the water. Then, your very next phone call, before you even call your insurance, is to a certified restoration professional. While you wait for them, start taking pictures of everything. Get your valuables and electronics up high and dry. And please, whatever you do, do not use a household vacuum or a shop vac on the water. It's a huge electrocution risk.
Now, when the pros show up, they are not there to mess around with paperwork. They hit the ground running. Their absolute first priority is to stop the bleeding, to get the water out and set up specialized equipment to prevent the damage from getting any worse.
And that leads us right into the heart of it all, the actual restoration process. This isn't just about setting up a few fans. It's a structured, scientific approach designed to bring your home back from the brink safely and completely.
Okay, this is a super important distinction that a lot of people get mixed up. Think of it like this. Mitigation is the paramedic on the scene, stopping the bleeding. It's the emergency response. Restoration, that's the surgeon and the physical therapist, doing the repairs to get your home all the way back to how it was before.
So the whole professional process really breaks down into these 3 key phases. First, they extract all the standing water with powerful pumps and special tools. Then comes the structural drying. That's to get rid of all the hidden moisture. And only when everything is perfectly dry does the final step, reconstruction, actually begin.
Let's zoom in on that second step for a second, because this is where the real science comes in. Structural drying is so much more than just aiming a few fans at a wet spot. It's a carefully monitored process using huge industrial dehumidifiers and air movers that takes about 3 to 5 days. It's all designed to pull moisture you can't even see out of your walls and floors. If you skip or rush this step, you're basically guaranteeing a future mold problem. So you're probably wondering, okay, who decides how this is all done and what's it going to cost? Let's pull back the curtain on the business side of things, the standards and pricing that both the pros and the insurance companies have to follow. The big takeaway here is that this isn't the Wild West. There's actually a governing body, the ICRC, that sets all the professional standards. Any certified technician is following these proven, science-backed protocols, which is exactly what your insurance company wants to see when they're processing a claim. And get this, not all water damage is the same, because not all water is the same. The pros break it down into 3 categories. Category 1 is clean water, like from a supply line. Category 2 is what we call gray water. It's contaminated, maybe from a dishwasher. And Category 3 is black water. That's the really nasty stuff, like sewage, and it requires a whole different level of cleanup. So when you finally see a bill, it's not some random number they pulled out of thin air. It's a careful calculation based on all these factors: how much water there was, what category it was, what kind of materials got wet — carpet is very different from hardwood — and of course, how much rebuilding needs to be done. All right, so we've walked through the chaos and the cleanup. Now, for my favorite part, let's talk about how you could hopefully avoid all of this in the first place with a solid defense plan.
Look, I get it. You see a small leak and your first thought is, I can handle this. But trying to DIY this kind of cleanup is a huge risk. You could miss moisture trapped deep inside a wall, which just leads to mold. You could even get your insurance claim denied. The pros have tools like thermal imaging cameras to see moisture that's completely invisible to the naked eye. They make sure the job is actually done.
And the good news is, preventing a disaster can be surprisingly simple. It really just comes down to a few routine checks. Look at your appliance hoses every year. Get your AC line cleaned out. Keep your gutters clear. And probably the most important thing on this list, know exactly where your home's main water shutoff valve is and how to use it.
So, we'll leave you with that one thought. Now that you know the stakes, you know the process, and you know how to prevent it, take a moment and ask yourself, is my home ready? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.